Welcome back to Two Peas in a Podcast. We are your co-hosts.
well,
What was that?
well, there goes our outtake.
Welcome back to Two Peas in a Podcast. We're your hosts, Abby and Damien. So Damien works with men. He's a men's coach, and I work mainly with women on their health and fitness and hormones. And today we wanted to discuss the topic of men's health as it relates to testosterone, because this is such an important topic for men. I know so many men are wondering, do I have adequate levels of testosterone? Is something going on in that area? And I bet they would love to know the things that cause low testosterone and what we can do about them to boost testosterone levels. So, yeah, this is a much needed conversation.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. I think that men, we know that testosterone plays like a really crucial role in the way we perform as far as strength, as far as our sexual performance and things of that nature. But that's about the extent of it. We just know men have testosterone. So you being an expert in hormones, for both men and women, although you work exclusively with women pretty much. We make exceptions from time to
Yeah.
time, especially men. If you're like looking to get your hormone levels tested, you can reach out to us. We'll leave our contact information in the description and at the end of the video. So let's dive into what exactly is testosterone and what role it plays in the body.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning. I like that. So, I mean, we've all heard of testosterone, but what is it? It's the main male sex hormone, is
Okay.
what it is. And just like you said, it plays an important role in things like strength and muscle building and stamina and motivation, but it's also important for mood and memory. So, yeah, there's multiple important things that it does in the body. But yeah, I would say strength and libido and good sexual function are probably the main ones that most men are thinking about.
Okay. So before we really dive into testosterone and like what it does for the body or whatnot, where it comes from, women have levels of testosterone too. Can you kind of touch on that a bit? Because I think that a lot of people are under the impression that men have testosterone, no estrogen,
Mm,
and women have estrogen, no testosterone. Can you
mhm.
just kind of briefly explain that?
I love that you brought that up. That's wise and so perfect because that's absolutely true. I think that's a common misconception. So, why don't you guys picture the yin yang symbol, right?
Mm.
And you know how, like, on each side, it has the main side and then it has that little dot. Well, that's basically what it is. So, like, there's the male side, and then there's the little dot that's the estrogen.
Okay.
And then there's the female side, and there's the little dot that's the testosterone, because that is, in fact, true. Men have estrogen and they need estrogen, but you guys only need a little bit. There's a sweet spot. So, you have mostly testosterone, but you need a little bit of estrogen to temper that. And we'll talk more about why that is. Also, for us as women, we have testosterone. We have more estrogen than well, actually, that's not even true. We have more testosterone than estrogen.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
but we have much less testosterone than men do.
Okay.
So,
And
actually,
much more than estrogen than men do as well.
oh yes, we have a lot more estrogen than men do.
Okay.
Yeah, and much less testosterone than men do. But yeah, so testosterone is a really important hormone. It's really important for women too, as you can
Okay.
see. But yeah, it's very important for men. So for men, most of the testosterone is going to be made in the testes in the body.
Okay. So it's made in the testes, and so this is where testosterone is produced.
Yep.
Testosterone,
Yep,
testes.
that's
Oh,
why.
I see. Okay. So what are the different forms of testosterone? Because I know we hear testosterone, but it's a hormone.
Mm,
So it has different variations, I guess you could say.
metabolites.
Different metabolites, and
Yeah.
they have different functions.
Yeah.
So let's get into that.
Yeah, so every hormone breaks down into metabolites in the body, and the way that these metabolites function or the preference that the body has to one metabolite versus another is kind of going to dictate how those metabolites are going to act along with the hormone in the body. So when it comes to testosterone, And most hormones really, they get metabolized down one of two pathways, alpha or beta.
Okay.
So the alpha, like it sounds, is going to be the stronger, more potent pathway, and the beta is going to be the weaker, less potent pathway. So when you think about the main metabolites of testosterone, I'm actually going to talk about four things. So you have the main alpha pathway, the main beta pathway, which is normal testosterone metabolism, right? Healthy testosterone metabolism. Then you have another version of testosterone. And I want you to think of this as testosterone on steroids. This is called DHT or dihydrotestosterone. This is like the souped up version of testosterone. This is like the guy in the gym who's on steroids and he's angry and he's got fatty acne
Oh
and he's
yeah.
bald and he's
Uh-huh.
like souped up and aggressive. That's another form of testosterone that can happen, which is much more potent than testosterone alone. And then the actual fourth metabolite that I would say is estrogen, because testosterone does get made into estrogen. And in a healthy male body, it'll be in the right amount. It'll be a little bit of estrogen that he needs to keep everything in balance.
Okay, that's really good that you clarified that because we know that a lot of wrestlers have historically taken steroids,
Mm.
and in turn, they have suffered side effects such as hair loss. And this is because of the different types of testosterone that's being produced in the body as a result of taking these steroids.
Yeah. Or I just want to mention that genetics, but also diet and lifestyle and environmental factors are going to influence which metabolites, like which pathways our hormones get metabolized down. So if we have a lot of, and we're going to talk about different things that can impact this, say we're exposed to a lot of toxins or we have a lot of inflammation, it can push the testosterone more down one path versus another. So you might be getting more of that jacked up, souped up testosterone that can have all those negative effects if it's too high versus like a good, healthy, like alpha testosterone, which we would want.
Okay, so I think what I hear you saying is there's good testosterone and bad testosterone. And how do we go about producing this healthy testosterone? How do we ensure that we're producing the healthy testosterone and not that unhealthy testosterone?
Yeah, so healthy diet and lifestyle are really going to be your biggest things. I mean, you want to make sure that you don't have ongoing inflammation or really chronic stress or, and we're going to talk all about the toxin piece because toxins are such a huge endocrine disruptor, which endocrines just mean hormones. So when you hear people say endocrine disruptor, it just means that it's a chemical or a toxin that basically wreaks havoc on your hormones. And there's a lot of those out there, and there's a lot of them that we come into contact with on a daily basis in seemingly innocent places and innocent sources. So I definitely know that we're going to expound on that as well.
So maybe we should just get into that. Let's talk about what are endocrine disruptors. I know that one of the most dangerous endocrine disruptors or chemicals that we are exposed to on a regular basis without us even being aware of it is right in most of our homes, and it's fragrances. Fragrances. So these fragrances that you have in your home, it's in the laundry, it's in, the air fresheners, it's in literally everything. You spray Febreze all over everything. There are very dangerous chemicals that are actually testosterone killers, endocrine disruptors.
Hmm.
And so let's kind of expound on that a bit. I want to hear your expertise on this.
Yeah, let's dive right into one of the main culprits,
Hmm.
right? So I always say like yes, there's lots of toxins out there in the world, right? Like, the smog and the air pollution and car exhaust and pesticides and all these things that we really can't control and it gets doomsday pretty fast when we think about it. So I always encourage my clients and people that I talk to, like, think about what you can control, those elements in your life that you do have control over. So that's namely like what you bring in your home, what you put in your body, and what you put on your body. So that's what we have control over. So let's just focus on those things. So like you were talking about fragrances. Most conventional fragrances, unless they're like completely natural and made with essential oils, but anything else that's not, most conventional fragrances are going to have an endocrine disruptor called phthalates. And what phthalates do, guys, I hate to tell you this, they act like estrogen in your body. So keep that in mind. And they are found in anything scented. So cologne, that cologne that you spray on your body, I don't care if it's Dior,
Hmm.
it could be designer. It's still killing your testosterone. It could be in deodorant. Like, think of all your personal care products, anything that you put on your body, because it's not just, oh, I just sprayed it on and it's just going to wash off. No, anything that you put on your skin, it's going to absorb in. And anything that you breathe in, we tend to think that, oh, I just breathed it in. It's not like I ate it. But when you breathe in that oxygen, it goes into your lungs and it goes directly into your bloodstream. You have no barriers of defense against that. So cologne is a pretty bad one because you spray on a cloud of it and you're getting it on your skin, you're also breathing it in, it's going right into your bloodstream, and immediately it's affecting your testosterone levels. And then anything else in the home that got to think of, like cleaning products, if you're using conventional cleaning products, scented candles, or things, anything that has a scent. So like air fresheners, guys that drive around, those little Christmas trees that you see hanging off the roof
Yeah,
here. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Yes, I'm always thinking, dude, you're killing your testosterone.
Right.
So Glade plugins, dryer sheets, I mean, those things, anything that has a strong, like, I hate to break it to you, if you're someone that likes the scent of things being clean, probably killing your testosterone with that. So we really want to opt for natural cleaning products, natural personal care products. I really highly encourage you to just rely on your own pheromones instead of cologne. Women actually like that better, by the way. I will just say, because all of those things are going to be so bad for testosterone.
So, men, I hope you take notes because what she's saying is a lot of the colognes and sprays that we're putting on our bodies to attract women are actually being counterproductive because they're lowering our testosterone, which in turn can lower our performance as men, as the male species. So, like, I had an experience the other day. A coworker went to shake my hand and he's covered, I mean, drenched. Where I come from, we called it GBG, girl be gone. Like when they had on too much cologne, it was like he got on that GBG, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy shakes my hand and now I can't get the fragrance off of me. And I'm, with the knowledge that I have, I'm like, oh my gosh, because the skin is the largest organ of the body.
Yep.
It's an organ. It's
An
an
organ.
external organ.
Mm-hmm.
So anything you put on it is going to be absorbed into the bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
And this is true for any fragrance. And so this isn't just limited to men. I want to make sure that we understand that these chemicals are dangerous for women as well.
Yep. Perfume is
So,
just as bad.
yeah. And so, you're smelling good for your man, that could be
Killing his
killing his
testosterone.
testosterone. So here's a question. The way that endocrine disruptors affect men, how do they impact women?
That's a good question. Yeah, before I answer that, I just wanted to say, like how you were sharing your story, an example. One thing that always gets me is when I'm in the gym and there's guys and they're just covered in cologne.
Or Axe body
Yeah, so
spray?
stuff, cologne, body spray. Oh my goodness, if it's scented, it's killing your testosterone. And I'm just looking at them thinking, you just like showered yourself in a cloud of this cologne, and you're in here lifting weights, trying to boost your testosterone, and you're just completely
It's
sabotaging yourself. It's
counterproductive.
completely counterproductive. Yeah. So taking it back to women, same thing. So these endocrine disrupting chemicals like phthalates, they mimic estrogen in the bodies of men and in the bodies of women. So men get too much testosterone, and we'll talk about the symptoms of that and what that can look like. And women, did I say testosterone?
Yes,
I meant to say
estrogen,
estrogen. Men get too much
too much
estrogen.
estrogen.
Yeah, so we'll talk
Right.
about what that looks like when the levels of testosterone are too low and
Mhm.
estrogen is too high. But same thing for women. We get too much estrogen, and then women can get estrogen dominance. And then in a woman, that can cause things like really heavy, painful periods or mood swings or PMS, things like that.
Okay. See, yeah, that's what I was wondering because for a woman, it might not look like her drenching herself in a tub of cologne perfume. It might look like the cleaning products that you use at home, wanting to add that fabric softener to the dryer or, making sure the house smells like Fabuloso or Pine Sol or something,
Hmm.
which is very common. We want the house to have a smell because we want to know like it's there, it's clean,
Yeah.
but we just have to be mindful of what we are using. So you want to make sure that you're using 100% essential oils, products that have essential oils, as well as
Natural cleaning products.
natural cleaning products.
Yeah. So a really good way to know if this is a little overwhelming and you don't know where to start, a really good resource is going to be the Environmental Working Group's Skin Deep database, and we'll link that below. So if you go to ewg.org/skin deep, they have a database and it's a completely neutral third party. Basically, what you do is you go and you type in the name of a product. Or, a lot of times you can find the actual like branded product, say it's like a deodorant or a cleaning product or whatever. You type the name in. If you can't find, if the brand's a little less known, you can type in the ingredient and it will give a safety rating from 1 to 10 based on how toxic it is. Because what's happening these days is a lot of companies know that we want more natural products and there's a lot of
Hmm.
greenwashing happening, right? Like packages are suddenly green and brown and everything looks very natural and natural is stamped on all the products. But that doesn't mean anything. Like legally, that doesn't actually mean anything.
Hmm.
So, a good way to actually know what's in the product is to turn it over, look at the label, and then you can go to EWG and use their Skin Deep database. And this can be cleaning products, home care products, it can be makeup, personal care, all of this. And you can get a grade for how safe or unsafe this product is. Because sometimes you'll look at a name on a label and it'll sound really scary, but it's actually fine. And some things kind of sound innocent, but they're not. So this is a really excellent tool to use to know, is this a safe product or not?
Also, there's an app that I use. It's called Yucca, Yuka. It's a free app. You download it, and essentially, it's a barcode scanner. So when you pick up a product, you can simply scan the product with this barcode scanner. It works for food, it works for hygiene products, cleaning products, all those things. And it'll instantly give you a rating, and it will also tell you specifically why it's getting the rating that it's getting. So if it has a poor rating, it will tell you what chemicals are giving it a poor rating as far as health is concerned. It will also suggest recommendations for alternative products that, you know, don't have as many chemicals or
Exactly.
harmful
They're
chemicals.
cleaner.
Yeah, and we're not endorsed or sponsored or anything. These are just the things that we use in our daily lives.
Yeah, they're helpful tools.
What are some of the symptoms that might indicate that someone has low testosterone?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So, fatigue is a big one. Weight gain is another one. Obviously, erectile dysfunction. And now you can have lower levels of testosterone and it not be showing up as erectile dysfunction yet, but that is something that can obviously happen. Lower motivation, lower stamina. I mean, testosterone gives us that like stamina, that kind of get up and go. Difficulty building muscle. So, if a guy's having trouble putting on muscle, low libido, bone loss, sexual dysfunction. Um, and then breast development. If a man has low testosterone coupled with high estrogen, and you can see it if you think about it. Have you ever seen a guy that looked like he probably carried a little bit of weight on his body, might have been a little obese or a little overweight. And rather than looking like an overweight man, which is usually a gut,
He
right?
looks like he has his mom's hips.
He looks like he has hips and breasts, like more of a feminine
Right.
figure. Yep, that's because not only does he has low testosterone, he has high levels of estrogen because what estrogen will do is it will change where the fat is stored on the body. So typically for males, fat gets more stored in the gut, right? The beer
Hmm.
belly is what
Hmm.
we call it. It's a very male place to store
Right.
fat. And women tend to store fat more in like the thighs and the butt, the hips, the breasts. And so if a man has higher levels of estrogen, that's where you start to see that breast development or maybe like more weight in the butt and thighs rather than just the belly.
I see. So, what I hear you saying is that these hormones, testosterone as well as estrogen, play a role in the way our bodies are shaped.
Yeah.
And if a man has low testosterone, I'm just repeating what you said here,
Mm-hmm.
but if a man has low levels of testosterone and higher levels of estrogen, then he will start to store fat in the areas that a woman would typically store fat.
Yep.
And I said it earlier, kind of jokingly, but it's a serious matter. Like a man can have his mother's hips,
Yeah.
even like
Yeah.
to where you look at his figure and his fat is going to those areas that are typically associated with women.
Yeah.
So this is a symptom of low testosterone
And high estrogen.
and high estrogen.
Hmm.
Okay. And so we're talking about the estrogen levels, which are impacted by those endocrine disruptors. They don't only lower testosterone levels, but they also increase estrogen, like a fake estrogen.
Yep, exactly. People need to know that, right? I mean, like we think that we're having good hygiene and being really cleanly because, oh, I'm, using all these cleaning products and I have this cologne and I washed myself with this soap and, I use the fabric softener and the dryer sheets and I've just got everything perfect and smelling nice and I have my Glade plugins and I have my air fresheners. And what we don't realize is that we're absolutely just wreaking havoc on our hormones, and that these are huge reasons why, people are having so much trouble with weight. And, men, and I know that this is a really embarrassing thing for men, if they start to develop breasts or gain weight in this way. But it's such a dead giveaway. If I see this, I know instantly, even without testing, that he has low testosterone and high estrogen.
So we have spoke about the endocrine disruptor, which is phthalates.
Hmm.
But there's another toxic hidden endocrine disruptor that is everywhere. And everyone's being exposed to this. It's an epidemic that humanity is being faced with that's right in front of us that we don't even recognize. And that is microplastics. Microplastics, specifically microplastics which contain a chemical known as BPAs. And these BPAs tend to get into our body and begin to mimic estrogen
Hmm.
in the body.
Yep.
And we're consuming it because all of our products, they come in plastic. The food we eat, the food we consume, wrapped in plastic wrap. The bottles of our products contained in plastic.
Bottles of
Everything,
water.
everything, especially water. If you leave a bottle of water out in the sun or even at room temperature, or just the fact that it's stored in plastic, period,
Hmm.
that plastic can infuse into that water and contaminate it with these chemicals. And you're actually ingesting these microplastics into your bloodstream. Do you want to talk about that a bit more?
Yeah, so this is why they say you should never heat food in plastic. You shouldn't freeze things in plastic because those changes in temperature, especially high heat, can have that leaching effect where it leaches these chemicals from the plastic into the food or the water. So, I mean, but I would say, think about it. We don't even have control. So say you bought bottled water and you're like, well, I haven't put it in the microwave or, it's in a controlled temperature. But you didn't have control over from when that water was actually bottled, when it was driven in a truck, when it was delivered, where it sat in a supermarket or in a store. You don't know if it got frozen, if it got heated. You don't know what's happened to it along the way. So it's never really completely safe. So it's better just to not to use the least amount of plastic as possible. And I know that's a big challenge in our modern world, like you were saying. I mean, all the food packaging and everything, it just comes, all of our products, they come in plastic. But there's some things that we can do that make probably the biggest difference. And so obviously never heat anything in plastic. Another good one that I learned from a toxicologist is that your things like olive oil, if you buy like any of the oils, like the cooking oils, you should buy those in glass because the oil,
They're highly
they
absorbent.
are absorbable. They will pull those chemicals
Oh,
right out of
yeah.
the plastic. So when we buy like olive oil or avocado oil or any type of cooking oil, that's something that you really should splurge on. Get it in
Make
glass.
sure it's in glass.
Yeah, because fats will pull, because the connection between plastics and fats, the fats will pull that plastic out.
A really popular thing that we see in our culture is Tupperware. Tupperware is the plastic containers that we use to store food in. And a lot of times we end up heating those containers in the microwave.
And we don't want to do that.
And that's what we don't want to do. That
No,
is one of the most
no.
toxic things you can
Yeah.
do.
And like those frozen dinners, and all those like
TV
things, TV
dinners.
dinners that are made out of convenience, and they have that film of plastic. They're in a plastic tray, and they say you can just throw it in the microwave. That doesn't mean that that plastic is not leaching out of there. It is. So do not put them on a plate if you buy those types of things.
Goodness.
Do not, I mean, ideally don't buy them, right? Because they're not even that healthy. But if you are buying those, just don't take them out of the container, heat them up on a plate. Like, don't ever heat anything in plastic. And then I highly encourage you to switch out your Tupperware for like we use glassware instead.
Glassware.
There's so many options these days. They're not even that expensive. You know, you can go to Target or, a lot of grocery stores even sell them. You can get like stainless steel because we use stainless steel or glass for water bottles,
Right.
food storage. Think about your cookware too, like the non-stick, the Teflon, not good for your hormones either. So, cast iron, stainless steel, ceramic, these are going to be much better options.
And also silicone for the storage.
Silicone, exactly. That's a good one. If you
Silicone
don't,
for storage
yeah,
bags.
that's a really good one. Or like, like ice, the ice tray. We have a
Yeah.
silicone
Right.
ice tray instead
Silicone.
of plastic. It actually works a whole lot better.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things you can do. And you don't need to change it all in a day, but slowly start thinking about, okay, how can I start replacing these things over time to kind of limit the amount of plastic that's coming in my life? Because these are things that you have control over.
So these toxins are everywhere. We have to be aware,
Unfortunately, it's something to be
unfortunately.
mindful of.
But when you are aware, like it becomes second nature. Like she said, you start little, but eventually you'll start to say, do I want to opt for the one in glass as opposed to the one in plastic?
Mhm.
Or if I'm going to heat this up, I'm going to heat it up on a plate or in a toaster oven as opposed to heating it up directly in a plastic tray or
Mhm.
bowl. What are some of the root causes that lead to low testosterone?
Yeah, so other than the endocrine disruptor chemicals that we just talked about, there are other things that cause low testosterone as well. So it's important for us to be mindful. I mean, one thing is even just aging. Obviously, as a man ages, he's going to make lower levels of testosterone. So that is normal that it does go down a little bit as he ages. But what we're seeing now is just, there's guys in their 20s that have really low testosterone, like alarmingly low. So it's definitely not just aging. There's also actually two things that I really want to touch on because they're so prominent and kind of celebrated in our culture, but they're really bad for testosterone, and that is alcohol and THC. And I hate to tell you guys, I hate to tell you, but those drinks you're having, that alcohol, killing your testosterone, okay? And THC, if you're smoking marijuana, that is also killing your testosterone. And you might even be noticing the more you're drinking and the more you're smoking, the less you're able to get it up, right?
Yeah, as a substance abuse counselor, I worked as a substance abuse counselor for over a decade. And one of the things that I did see was that men who drink regularly and smoke marijuana regularly did struggle with erectile dysfunction. This is because marijuana over time will cause impotency. And this is now I know because of this knowledge, it's because it's lowering the testosterone levels significantly.
Mm.
And the way that you combat this is by stopping. If you need help, you seek help. But like as long as you continue to engage in this behavior, it's tobacco use as well. Let's not leave out tobacco.
Yep. Yeah.
Tobacco as well lower the testosterone levels and also can lead to impotency. And if you don't know, impotency is not being able to get an erection when demanded.
So other things that can lower testosterone as well, ongoing chronic stress. If you're living in fight or flight all the time and you're really stressed, that's going to be depleting your testosterone, depleting your sex hormones. If you have a thyroid issue, which obviously is less common in men than women, but low functioning thyroid, that can also be impacting your testosterone. Obesity, inflammation can also be impacting testosterone.
I want to just speak to what you just stated about men having lower testosterone at the age of 20 than most older men in the past, historically. Personally, I attribute this to a practice that many people practice with babies, specifically taking the baby bottle, which is plastic, right? You put a plastic liner into it, And what do? Like to heat it, we sit it in boiling water. So what you're doing is boiling, heating up that plastic with that liquid and infusing that liquid with plastic, microplastics. So from birth, a lot of people have given their children microplastics unknowingly,
Yep.
which has led to a
Yep.
lot of the hormone changes that we've seen in today's society.
It's like a pandemic, like you said, all these, hormone disrupting chemicals and all the plastics. I mean, it's a barrage on our system, and it's even more of a problem on babies and small children who aren't fully developed. And, parents mean well, but if they don't know and they're exposing their children to these chemicals and they're growing up and they're not able to develop properly, this is a big problem.
Yeah, it's really easy to take a bottle and put it in the microwave even, and then kind of just, put a little few drops on the back of your hand and see if it's hot or not.
Hmm.
But this is one of the things that is causing the
Hmm.
consumption of
Hmm.
microplastics.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but it even impacts like the size of the penis. How
Wow.
much plastic that, a child was exposed to. And nowadays, it's not even a question of are there microplastics present in my body or not? No, we all have them. It's just how much do we have? Like that's how bad it is. So that's the thing about plastic. It's so serious. So I mean, we can't completely get rid of it, but we can take measures in our own home to lessen our exposure as much as possible, especially not like heating it up or, giving it to our children or things like that.
The average human being consumes about a credit card worth of plastic in a span of 1 year.
Hmm.
So that's how much we are being exposed to microplastics.
Yeah.
I was watching a show the other day, and this lady, she's sprinkling edible glitter onto some of the food. I know, right? But, and one of the other contestants was like, I don't want any of that. I'm tired of consuming these microplastics. We have enough in our body as it is. I was glad to see that he was, informed and aware that this is happening, but also it's tiny things like that that we're just not being mindful of, not being aware of, and it's really having an impact on our culture. So
Well,
what ends up happening, the fertility rates are going down. They're decreasing because men aren't able to produce. They aren't able to perform. They aren't able to produce. Their sperm count
oh,
levels
sperm counts are way down.
are lower as a result of these microplastics. Testosterone levels lower because of these microplastics and these phthalates. And so what ultimately the path that we're headed down, if we do not stop consuming microplastics, is
Not being
we're
able
not
to
we're not going to
reproduce
be
as a
able to
species.
reproduce, which is ultimately what we're here to do. Is to keep being here, right?
Mm.
Is to continue to reproduce, and we won't be able to do that at the rate that we're going
Yeah.
today.
And there's a few more things that lower testosterone that I just wanted to
Please
mention. So
continue.
poor sleep, if someone's having trouble sleeping, not just like 1 or 2 nights, but like someone who doesn't sleep over time,
Mhm.
that can really impact testosterone. And then some deficiencies like vitamin D or zinc. Zinc is such a big one because we need zinc to make adequate levels of testosterone. So if you're not getting enough zinc, it's going to be hard for your body to make testosterone. And another thing that I wanted to mention are some medications. So I don't think we actually mentioned this, but
No.
the raw material that your body uses, like the first thing in the chain of hormone production that your body uses to actually produce all of its sex hormones is cholesterol.
Oh,
Yes, I always love telling people this.
yeah, because it's so
Yeah,
demonized.
because it's completely demonized, and we're kind of led to believe like the less cholesterol, the better. And if I didn't have any cholesterol in my body, I'd be perfectly healthy. That's absolutely not true. You need cholesterol for many reasons. But one of the very important reasons why you need cholesterol is because it's the raw material for all of your sex hormones. So, testosterone, estrogen for women, progesterone, cortisol, we need cholesterol in order to make those hormones. So, if someone is on medications like, say, cholesterol reducing medications like statins, and especially if they're on a high dose and their cholesterol levels dip, we're not going to have enough raw material to actually make enough of their sex hormones to be healthy. And that's why these statins have all kind of side effects. So, a big one that I see happening especially with men after they get past a certain age. It seems like almost everyone's just put on a statin after a certain age, right? Well, they get low testosterone because it's sequestering all of their cholesterol and they don't have enough to make healthy, adequate testosterone levels.
When we talk about salt, cholesterol, even fat, like these things have been demonized in society, but they perform such essential functions. If you didn't have salt, if you didn't have fat, if you didn't have cholesterol, which we now know is the raw building material for testosterone, you would have severe health issues. If you were out in the forest, in the wilderness, you would be seeking out fat. You would want fat. You wouldn't be looking for berries to pick. You would reach a certain point where you would get very hungry and your body will want fat, cholesterol producing fat, because this is what's going to help you to build testosterone.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's so true. And the body is so wise. It's so much smarter than us. I mean, we've been studying it for how long and we still don't know all of its functions,
Oh,
right? We have a
right.
better understanding than we did, but there's so many things that the body does in its wisdom that we don't need to micromanage. It's doing its
Right.
thing. If it's producing cholesterol, it's for a reason. There's a reason we need those things. And, like you said about even something like cancer is a survival response in the body. And if you actually think about why it happens, it's the body trying to survive, right? The body's never going to do something against itself, right? It's unless it's trying to survive.
Can you expound on that a bit?
Yeah, so if you think about it, the way that cancer works is that you have the cells that are mutating. And so it's a survival response that those cells multiply, right? Because it's like they feel threatened and they're trying to get killed off. And so they go, oh no, I have to multiply and divide so that I can survive. And that's why you get those like
Oh, I
fast
see.
dividing cells.
Yeah.
So if you look more into like, those type of responses, the body is always about survival. It's always working
Always.
towards your survival, always. So that's what I'm always telling people. Like, if you want to be healthy, you have to make sure that your body feels safe first because survival is the most important thing. And then after that, then we can work on, like weight and, muscles and testosterone and hormones and other things like that. But really, survival is the number one thing. So you have to be living, and it's not just knowing that you're safe in your mind, it's your body and your nervous system feeling safe. And that's why stress, for example, is such a big depleter on our hormones and our health because if we're living under this constant state of fight or flight, the body thinks that it's constantly fighting for survival. And it's very hard to be healthy in those types of situations.
So we touched on a lot of different topics concerning testosterone levels, low testosterone, being exposed to endocrine disruptors. So what I want us to do next is kind of explore what are some of the support options that people who are dealing with low testosterone can explore.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, first of all, if you're wondering if you have low testosterone and it's not, if it's not obvious, get your hormones tested. And that's something that I do. So, there's actually two different types of hormone testing that I do, and that's either you can test through blood or you can do a urine test. And that would be a great place to start. You also want to measure, not just your testosterone, but your estrogen. You want to measure another hormone called sex hormone binding globulin, which is something that binds up testosterone. And if you have too much of it, you can have testosterone in your body, but it's all like locked away and can't do its job because of the sex hormone binding globulin. So testing is a good thing. If you're wondering, just to get a baseline where your levels are at, I would highly recommend getting your levels tested. And that's something I can help with if you want. Also, so think about it in terms of when we're looking at testosterone, what you can remove from your life that's lowering your testosterone, and then what you can add in, what healthy things you can add in that's going to naturally help boost your testosterone. So we talked about, the lowering, we talked about, plastics, getting rid of plastics as much as possible, getting rid of things with endocrine disrupting chemicals, those things that mimic estrogen in the body, those things that we have control over in our home and our personal care products and things like not using cologne and things like that. So think about that. What are the things that you can remove? And now we want to talk about what are some things that you can add in that are going to help boost your testosterone. So you probably already know this, but one of the main things that boosts testosterone is weightlifting, building muscle. Testosterone loves that.
almost instantly.
Oh
You
yeah.
feel it almost
Yeah,
immediately.
you'll get an immediate, and this might be temporary initially, but you get it, even women, when we lift weights, we get a little bit of a testosterone boost just right after that, just from that, that weightlifting session. That's when we're like, I got to pump, which,
Yeah.
yeah, some of that's circulation, but, it's also testosterone. So weightlifting, strength training, and then HIIT, so that high intensity interval training, that's
Mhm.
also good for testosterone. So even without taking anything, even if you're just doing those things in your life, that's really going to help testosterone. Then there's also herbal things that you can do to support your testosterone. So some things, and now obviously my medical disclaimer, work with a qualified practitioner to make sure that, you don't, that it's right for you, and that, if you're on any medications, you don't have interactions or anything like that. But some herbal things that help boost testosterone, maca root can be one that can be good for libido too. Tribulus is one that's really good for testosterone. Tongkat Ali, I think it's also known as long jack. So if you look at it, a lot of times it'll be like a blend,
Mhm.
and you'll see multiple things in there. Horny goat weed, which is kind of funny, but true to its name,
Right,
right?
right.
Good for testosterone and libido. So yeah, there's herbal support. There's other things too, but those are some of kind of the main ones. Ginseng is another one, like red ginseng,
Ginseng.
and it's also energizing. It's also good for circulation, which circulation is important for like healthy erections and things like that, to get nutrients to the body as well. So that's important. Blood sugar regulation. If you have diabetes or pre-diabetes and you have high blood sugar, you probably also have low testosterone. So, not eating a ton of sugar, eating plenty of protein and healthy fats and fiber with meals to make sure that you're keeping your blood sugar stable. So, don't just be eating sugar and white carbs by themselves, because the more you spike your blood sugar, the more likely you are to have lower levels of testosterone. Improving your sleep. That's another one. You want to make sure that you get good sleep. And then if you have any deficiencies, like I mentioned, vitamin D and zinc, you probably want to supplement with those things. I mean, those are like really good kind of standard supplements. I mean, I take vitamin D year round because that's something that, we make it from sunlight. And if you live in a place where you don't get sunlight, or you don't get out in the sun, you don't get outside much in the winter because it's cold, you're probably going to need levels of vitamin D. I always take a vitamin D with vitamin K2, and you want to make sure you take minerals in balanced forms. But just kind of as a basic, just knowing vitamin D and zinc, those are going to be really important for testosterone.
This episode has been great. Like, it's been so informative. I think that it has a lot of information, not just for men, but for women as well. So, what are some of the main takeaways regarding testosterone that the listeners should remember?
Yeah, so get your hormones tested if you're concerned about where your testosterone levels are at. If you think you have too much estrogen in your body, get those hormone levels tested. Remember what you can remove from your life. So, all those things that are depleting testosterone, so plastics, toxins,
Fragrances.
fragrances. I'm sorry, throw out that cologne. Just throw it out. You're going to be better for it, right? And then
On so many
on
levels.
so many levels. And then use that environmental working group skin deep database to check your products. And like I said, you don't have to do it all in a day, but say you run out of your deodorant. Well, before you buy a new one, go in there and check, how toxic is this? And if it is, find a new one. And if you do this every time you run out of a product, it won't be too expensive or too overwhelming because you're doing it gradually. But over time, you want to work to eliminate these endocrine disrupting chemicals that act like estrogen from the products that you're using on a regular basis on your body and in your home. As much as you're able to buy organic, and try and get things that are not heavily sprayed, right? Switching out your cookware for ceramic and cast iron, stainless steel. You don't want the non-stick, getting rid of plastics as much as possible. And then so you're removing the things, and then the other things that you're adding in. So it's like getting plenty of sleep, making sure you have good vitamin D and zinc levels, working out, lifting weights, doing some HIIT training, making sure you have healthy blood sugar, things that are going to be good for your health anyway, but are really important for your testosterone. And, if you're on any medications, like a statin, are those affecting my levels of testosterone? So just being mindful of those things are really, you can make a huge difference in your life, and you can absolutely turn it around. I mean, if you have too many of those chemicals in your life, and you say you're a man and you do kind of have some breast developing, we can turn that around. We can cleanse those out of the body. We can bring the levels of estrogen down. We can bring up levels of testosterone. So don't ever think that those things can't reverse, but you actually have to commit to doing something about it, right? Don't just let that situation keep happening. Remember how much power you have.
Thank you, Abby, for sharing your expertise on this important topic. So that does it for this episode of Two Peas in a Podcast. Join us for our next episode where we are going to introduce a Q&A, questions and answers. You will be able to submit a question to us via email, and we will respond to it in one of our following episodes, as many as we can get to. So we're going to start to do the Q&A regarding relationships and health related topics. So yeah, that sounds good.
Absolutely.
So thank you for joining us for another episode of Two Peas in a Podcast. Take care.